Making money and keeping money are two very different skills. Many people achieve wealth, but far fewer manage to hold on to it for the long term. In this chapter, we'll uncover why building wealth requires risk, boldness, and optimism, while staying wealthy demands humility, caution, and survival. You'll see how balance between these mindsets can make the difference between a fortune gained and a fortune lost. Two different skills. When people talk about money, they often focus on the question, how do I get wealthy? It seems obvious. If you want more financial security, more freedom, or more opportunity, then the first step is to accumulate wealth. But there's another question, one that's less glamorous but even more important. How do I stay wealthy? The truth is that getting money and keeping money are two very different skills. They require two very different mindsets. And history shows us that most people only learn one of them. They either learn how to grow wealth or how to preserve it, but rarely both. Think about what it takes to get wealthy. It often means taking risks, betting on yourself, and believing in a future that doesn't exist yet. Entrepreneurs, investors, innovators, they all have something in common. Optimism. They're willing to step into uncertainty with the hope that their efforts will pay off. Jeff Bezos left a comfortable job to build Amazon when online shopping wasn't yet proven. Elon Musk risked almost everything on Tesla and SpaceX when most people thought electric cars and private rockets were doomed to fail. Getting wealthy often requires that kind of boldness. It's about being willing to say, yes, I'll take that chance, because the reward is worth it. But once wealth is in your hands, the game changes. Staying wealthy doesn't reward the bold. It rewards the cautious. It's no longer about maximizing growth at all costs. It's about avoiding ruin. And that requires a very different set of skills: humility, frugality, and patience. Instead of thinking, how much more can I make? The question becomes, how much can I keep, even when the world turns against me? You can see this difference when you compare investors who thrive for decades with those who flame out quickly. Some ride a hot stock or a booming market, make millions, and then lose it all when things shift because they kept playing the getting wealthy game, even after they were already rich. Others, however, understand that once you've accumulated enough, the goal changes. They slow down, protect their assets, diversify, and build margins of safety. They may not become the richest person in the world, but they stay wealthy, which means they get to keep enjoying the rewards of their efforts. One of the best ways to see this contrast is by looking at professional athletes. Many of them master the skill of getting wealthy. They earn enormous contracts, millions in endorsements, and they achieve levels of income most people can't even imagine. But studies show that a shocking percentage of athletes go bankrupt within just a few years of retiring. Why? Because they never learned the second skill. They assumed the money would always flow in, and they kept spending and investing as if the income would never stop. On the other hand, you'll also find countless examples of athletes, actors, or business leaders who took a more cautious approach. They lived below their means, invested conservatively, and accepted that their peak earning years wouldn't last forever. They mastered the art of staying wealthy, and decades later, they're still financially secure, long after their time in the spotlight faded. This divide between getting and staying is crucial, because most of us approach money with a single-track mindset. We think the way we earned our wealth is the same way we should hold on to it. But the two paths couldn't be more different. Getting wealthy celebrates risk-taking. Staying wealthy demands risk management. Getting wealthy rewards optimism. Staying wealthy requires paranoia, at least a little bit of it. Getting wealthy is about offense. Staying wealthy is about defense. Neither one is better than the other. Both are essential. But if you focus on only one side of the equation, you may never experience lasting financial security. You might succeed for a moment, only to watch it all slip away. Or you might play it so safe that you never build the resources to enjoy your life fully. True financial wisdom is learning how to move between the two mindsets, knowing when to be bold and when to be careful, when to step on the gas and when to hit the brakes. In the end, wealth is not a single skill, but a balance of skills. And the people who master both, those who can get wealthy and stay wealthy, are the ones who create lives of freedom, security, and lasting impact. The role of luck and risk. When we look at people who've made great fortunes, it's tempting to assume that skill alone explains their success. Hard work, talent, intelligence, these are real factors, no doubt. But what we often forget is the role of luck. Just as important, though less glamorous, is the role of risk. Every financial story, whether it ends in triumph or collapse, sits at the intersection of both. Take Bill Gates as an example. His intelligence and drive were undeniable, but luck also played a pivotal role. Gates attended one of the very few high schools in the world that had a computer in the late 1960s. That access gave him a head start most of his peers never had. Was he brilliant? Absolutely. But thousands of brilliant kids never had the same opportunity, and their paths turned out very differently. Luck placed Gates in the right environment at the right time, and his skill allowed him to seize the opportunity. The flip side is risk. Consider the many entrepreneurs who took equally bold steps but didn't succeed. For every Amazon, there were dozens of companies trying the same thing that collapsed and vanished. For every Tesla, there were countless electric car startups that never left the prototype stage. We rarely hear their stories because history is written by survivors. But their failures remind us that risk is just as present as luck. When it comes to wealth, luck and risk are inseparable. The same event can be framed as good luck for one person and devastating risk for another. Imagine two investors in the housing market in 2008. One sold their property just before the crash, walking away with a fortune. The other bought heavily at the peak, only to see everything crumble. Both decisions might have been based on similar reasoning, but the outcomes diverged wildly. Timing, a form of luck, made all the difference. This is why humility is essential in finance. No matter how skilled or informed we are, there will always be forces outside our control. People who ignore this reality often grow overconfident, assuming their past success was entirely due to their own brilliance. They keep taking bigger and bigger risks until eventually luck turns the other way. And when it does, the fall is often catastrophic. The stories of financial ruin are everywhere. Investors who became overnight millionaires during the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s, only to lose it all when the market corrected. Homeowners who believed property values would never fall, only to see their wealth evaporate in 2008. Traders who made fortunes with high leverage until one bad week wiped them out. These aren't rare exceptions. They are reminders of how risk shadows every financial decision. Staying wealthy means respecting both sides of this equation. It requires acknowledging the role of luck in your success, which fosters humility, and it requires recognizing the constant presence of risk, which fosters caution. This combination of humility and caution is what keeps people financially secure over the long run. There's a phrase worth remembering: you only have to get rich once. That means once you've built wealth, the priority shifts from chasing bigger wins to avoiding catastrophic losses. A single bad decision, a single ignored risk, can undo decades of effort, which is why staying wealthy is less about hitting home runs and more about consistently avoiding strikeouts. So what does this look like in practice? It means diversifying instead of putting all your eggs in one basket. It means building an emergency fund so unexpected events don't wipe you out. It means resisting the temptation to chase every hot trend, recognizing that most will burn out before they pay off. And it means remembering that luck helped you get here, and risk could take it all away if you're not careful. In the grand story of wealth, luck opens doors and risk slams them shut. To get wealthy, you must sometimes bet big, hope for luck, and ride momentum. To stay wealthy, you must respect uncertainty, prepare for the unexpected, and never take success for granted. Those who balance both understand that fortune is fragile, and they treat it with the care it deserves. Survival versus growth mindset. When people think about building wealth, they often picture growth, investing in the stock market, starting a company, buying real estate. These are the activities that generate headlines and inspire ambition. And for good reason, they work. Growth is what builds wealth. But once you've reached a certain level of financial success, continuing with the same mindset can actually become dangerous. To protect wealth, you need a different perspective, the survival mindset. Let's break this down. The growth mindset is about offense. It's about seeing opportunities, taking calculated risks and believing that tomorrow can be bigger than today. Without this mindset, no one would innovate, no one would start a business, and no one would invest for the future. Growth requires optimism and boldness. It thrives on believing that what you put in today will multiply tomorrow. But the survival mindset, that's defense. It's about asking, what could go wrong? How do I make sure I'm still here after the storm passes? It's about recognizing that the world is uncertain and that wealth, no matter how large, can disappear faster than it was built. Survival requires humility, caution, and a willingness to sacrifice potential upside in exchange for security. Consider the famous investor Warren Buffett. He's often praised for his incredible growth as one of the richest men in the world. But Buffett himself has said that his top rule is simple: don't lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. That's survival thinking. He knows that one catastrophic loss can erase decades of steady progress. Growth made him rich, but survival kept him rich. Another example comes from families who build generational wealth. The first generation often works tirelessly, takes big risks, and grows the fortune. But if the second and third generations fail to adopt a survival mindset, the wealth vanishes. They spend recklessly, take unwise risks, or assume the good times will last forever. Within a few decades, the family wealth is gone. This is why the old saying goes, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. Survival doesn't mean avoiding growth altogether. It means balancing it with prudence. Think of it like climbing a mountain. The growth mindset gets you up the slope. It pushes you higher, step after step. But the survival mindset is what gets you safely back down. Plenty of climbers have conquered summits, only to perish on the descent because they didn't respect the danger. Wealth works the same way. So how do you cultivate a survival mindset without losing the ambition that fuels growth? The key is building margins of safety. That could mean saving more than you think you need, so unexpected expenses don't derail you. It could mean diversifying investments, so one failure doesn't destroy your future. It could mean living below your means, so lifestyle inflation doesn't trap you when income slows down. And it almost always means resisting the urge to swing for the fences when you've already hit more than enough home runs. There's also an emotional side to survival. It requires humility to admit that your success wasn't purely the result of your own brilliance. Luck played a part, timing played a part, and circumstances beyond your control will continue to play a part. When you accept this, you approach money differently. You stop trying to control every outcome and instead focus on resilience, building a financial life that can withstand surprises. The tension between growth and survival is constant. Lean too heavily on growth, and you risk overreaching. Focus only on survival, and you may miss opportunities to expand. True financial mastery comes from knowing when to prioritize each mindset. In your early years, growth may take the lead. You need to build. But as you accumulate wealth, survival must gradually become the priority. After all, what good is growth if you can't keep the results? At its core, the survival mindset isn't about fear. It's about endurance. It's about ensuring that the wealth you've built serves you not just today, but for decades to come. Growth is the engine. Survival is the seatbelt. One gets you moving. The other makes sure you arrive safely. Practical lessons for lasting wealth. We've seen that building wealth and keeping wealth require different skills. Growth pushes us forward, while survival holds us steady. But how do we put this into practice? What are the day-to-day habits and principles that help us not just reach wealth, but hold on to it over a lifetime? The good news is that the lessons aren't complicated. They're simple, but not always easy to follow. The first lesson is, know the difference between enough and too much. Many people lose their fortune not because they didn't earn enough, but because they didn't know when to stop chasing more. They doubled down, took unnecessary risks, or let greed cloud their judgment. If you can recognize when you have enough, you reduce the temptation to gamble what you already have for what you don't need. Wealth that stays is wealth that isn't constantly put at risk. The second lesson is protect against the unknown. The future is unpredictable. No one saw the exact timing of the financial crisis in 2008. Few could have predicted a global pandemic in 2020 and its ripple effects across economies. Events like these remind us that the biggest threats to our wealth are often the ones we can't see coming. Preparing for them doesn't mean predicting them. It means building a cushion so you can survive them. An emergency fund, insurance, and conservative investments aren't exciting, but they are lifelines when the unexpected arrives. Third, balance optimism with paranoia. This may sound strange, but the wealthiest, most enduring investors often have a dual personality. On one side, they're optimistic about the long term. They believe the world will keep advancing, that businesses will grow, that opportunities will arise. On the other side, they're paranoid enough to know that short-term setbacks are inevitable, and they plan accordingly. It's this balance, believing in the future while respecting uncertainty, that allows wealth to last. Fourth, avoid the trap of lifestyle inflation. One of the fastest ways to lose wealth is to let spending rise in proportion to income. It feels harmless. A bigger paycheck means a bigger house, a nicer car, a more expensive routine. But when spending grows just as fast as earnings, wealth never accumulates. It only cycles. Worse, if income drops, the inflated lifestyle becomes a burden that's hard to sustain. Staying wealthy means anchoring your lifestyle to a level below your maximum capacity, so you always have room to maneuver. Another practical lesson: stay diversified and humble. It's tempting to concentrate wealth into what worked before, whether it's a business, an industry, or a single investment strategy. But history teaches us that no strategy wins forever. Diversification isn't about maximizing returns. It's about minimizing regret. By spreading your bets, you protect yourself against the inevitable surprises. And humility reminds you that no one, not even the experts, knows the future with certainty. Finally, focus on resilience over brilliance. The people who stay wealthy aren't always the smartest or the boldest. They're the ones who survive. They don't need to win every bet. They just need to avoid losing everything. Think of wealth like a marathon, not a sprint. The goal isn't to finish first, but simply to keep running. Survival ensures that the game continues, and in money, longevity is often the most powerful advantage of all. When we put all these lessons together, a clear picture emerges. Lasting wealth isn't about making the perfect financial move. It's about creating systems and habits that protect you from ruin while giving you room to grow. It's about steady progress, not spectacular wins. It's about balancing boldness with caution, offense with defense, growth with survival. In the end, getting wealthy and staying wealthy are complementary skills. One builds the foundation, and the other preserves it. Master both, and you create not just financial security, but the freedom to live life on your own terms, today, tomorrow, and for generations to come. As we close this chapter, the lesson is simple but profound. Getting money and keeping money are two entirely different skills. One rewards boldness, the other rewards caution. True financial success lies in balancing the drive to grow with the wisdom to endure. But even with preparation and discipline, outcomes in money are never guaranteed. In fact, the biggest wins often come from rare, unpredictable events, moments you can't fully plan for, but that change everything. In the next chapter, we'll explore this strange reality. Why sometimes all it takes is a single outlier, one tail event, to define your financial future.